All right, guys. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're in my office. I wanted to bring you guys in and talk to you a little bit about putting together a strength and conditioning library. A strength and conditioning library is a very important part for a strength coach, but because there's no possible way that you can know everything there is to know about strength and conditioning. There's just too many areas. And we got strength and speed and power and balance, coordination, kinesthetic awareness, all those things. I mean, you can't be an expert in all those, and so you need to have a good resource area that you can go to make sure that you stay current, and make sure you stay on top of things, and to make sure that you can find the information. That's always kind of a general rule of thumb, is if you can find the information, it's great. Alexander Graham Bell, when they asked him what his phone number was, he went over and he looked it up in the phone book. He said, I'm not gonna bother memorizing things that I can go look up. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. But as part of a strength and conditioning library, now this is just a very small piece of my library. My wife hates me for the amount of books and stuff and videos and everything that I got at home. And then she made me bring a bunch of it, and we got it back in the storage room. But I pulled some of it out today just to kind of show you and talk to you a little bit about some of the things that should be in it. Okay, now obviously books. Books are great resources, but typically by the time they've gone to be published, sometimes they're even outdated. So you got to be a little careful with books as far as strength and conditioning is concerned. But as part of a strength and conditioning library, you should have books on strength and conditioning. You should have books on nutrition. Do as much reading as you possibly can on nutrition. Very important there. You also need to have books on leadership. And this is where early on in my career, I spent most of my time reading strength and conditioning books and literature and manuals and research studies and those types of things. But now I spend a majority of my time reading about leadership and having some business ideas as well, from the standpoint of this is our business. This is Strength and Conditioning Inc. and these are our customers, our clients, and we need to make sure that we can use the same type of principles that have been successful in the business world in the strength and conditioning world. So we have on my bookshelf, you have all kinds of books. You have some business books. Good to Great's a good book. You got strength and conditioning books. Some of the textbooks that are used for the test. Design resistance programs, jumping into plyometrics, SWAT fitness. Anything that I'm able to kind of get a little bit of a nugget. If I can pull just one nugget out of any of those books and use, that's huge. That's huge when it comes to program design. Also, a lot of, like I said, leadership books. So anything written by John Maxwell or Tony Dungy. There's some guys that really put out some really, really good stuff, and have a lot of you can always pull something from those leadership books, and that's what we do. Our job is to lead young men and women on a daily basis, and so that's the area that needs the most attention, in my opinion. Another thing that you can add to your library is ebooks. Ebooks are becoming the norm now. We've put out a lot of ebooks that with our business, but there's a lot of people out there that are publishing ebooks because they're easier to publish and it's easier to get the information out there. And so there's a lot of things out there. So if on my computer, I have a external hard drive that's 1 terabyte that I put a lot of my resources on. And so, for example, I have a ebook here, 531 for football. It's a 171 page ebook that I bought. There's got a whole list of books here that have been in there. A lot of times, what I'll do is another thing, because again, we don't have time as strength coaches to sit there and read 1,000 books. Now, me, I'm a little crazy now. I have books everywhere. If you look in my book bag right here, I have a book. I have one by my bed. I have one by where I sit on the couch. I typically have one on the toilet. I try to have something where I can read, but something that I've done a lot of lately is, now I have an iPhone, and all these phones are about the same now, but I have a couple of apps, iBooks and Kindle, and so if I went to Kindle and open that up, I have a list of books: Bounce, Multiple Streams of Income, Wealthy Freelancer, Crush It. Some books that I've read. iBooks. I have some books there, and what I'll do is I'll download those to my phone, and then if I'm sitting at the dentist, or if I'm sitting in an emergency room, or anything along those lines, I have something to read. What's really neat about the iPhone apps is that I can highlight there, and I can automatically get to those highlights instead of having to film through them. Another thing that I do quite a bit of is audiobooks. If you go to like my iTunes, go to audiobooks, I have a list of books, that I'll interchange as I order new ones that I'll just listen to on the while I'm doing cardio, or I'll listen to while I'm running, or I'll listen to in the car coming in and out of work. Now I have a 15-minute drive each day, so if I listen 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out, I'm listening to 30 minutes every day, getting better every day, instead of just listening to some music that I'm going to listen to all day long in the weight room. So audiobooks are a really good thing. Now, a lot of you guys are saying, hey, Coach Mac, I don't have the money for audiobooks, for Kindle books, for even the physical books, going to Amazon or anything like that. First thing I would suggest is trade. Find 2 or 3 other strength coaches, and there's going to be a lot of strength coaches on Strength Coach Basic Training that you can interact with. But trade. Get a group of 5, 10 people. Each of you buy a book, and then each of you trade, and all of a sudden you've read 10 books for the price of one. Another thing is go to Amazon or Craigslist or eBay or any of these sites, and you can typically find a pretty good deal for the physical book. If you want to have the physical book, I'm a physical book guy. I like to have it. I like to own it. But another thing you can do is obviously go to the library. Get your library card. This book here is a library book. It's something I started doing because all those audiobooks, all those books that you saw there, that's all about $15. So that stuff adds up pretty quick. So I've started going to the library and checking books out there. And what's great about the library now is that you can download some audiobooks as well, but you can also just go on, put in your wish list. They'll call you when it's there. You go pick it up, you read it. It's due by a certain time, so it forces you to kind of read it. And then, you go back, and when you drop it off, you pick up the new one. So books are a very critical part. Next, I'm a very visual learner. I've got to see things, especially concepts and demonstrations and things like that. So I have a lot of videos, and all these books. Some of these books are books that they're there that I need to read. This is a pile of videos, and I'm still waiting, finding time to go through. But anytime you can get your hands on videos, it's great. Now, I'm not telling you to do this, nor do I condone it, but it's not uncommon. There's a lot of people out there that'll buy a video, copy it, trade copies of videos and things along those lines. It's something some people do. But what I do is I got one of these DVD carrier things here, and if you go in our back room, you go back in our storage room, I have a bunch of old VHS tapes that I need to convert over to DVD, and some DVDs back there as well. But I just when I buy videos or I get videos, I throw them in here after I watch them, and then this is available to our interns here to be able to go and watch. And so a lot of times we'll send them upstairs, and then we'll watch an hour clinic DVD or something along those lines. So something again to consider. Get a little carrier, put it in your office, and have your videos there. But in your videos, I typically try to go for strength and conditioning videos. Any strength and conditioning video I can get my hands on, I want it, because there's something that usually you can get out of it. A lot of demonstration videos, coaching videos. How do you teach certain techniques? Very, very good. Anything inspirational. We have a video in there on Dan Gable and the championships that he won while being a wrestler and a coach at Iowa. Clinic DVDs, very, very good to get. Obviously, anytime you get that, you get a great resource. So if you can get those hands on those DVDs, fantastic, and you always have them What I've started doing is ripping them to my iTunes and then putting it on my iPod, and I'll watch a clinic DVD on the plane when we're flying for an away trip, or if on the bus if we're going to the stadium, or anything along those lines. Two other things that you can put in your library: pictures. I usually have it kind of in my external storage here, but I have pictures of facilities. You can learn a lot by just seeing pictures of facilities, and it'll show you how the people set it up. You might identify some pieces of equipment that you don't have, or pieces of equipment that people are using, ways of storing things. There's all kinds of things that you can take from those pictures. So pictures are very good. Websites. There's too many websites for me to go into right now. There's all kinds of websites out there, and you got to be the buyer beware market in a lot of respects, and when it comes to the internet as well, because there's a lot of people out there that can put anything and everything out there. So you got to be careful as to what you're reading. But if you're reading the internet and you're watching the internet, or you're going online to find information, there's a lot of good sites out there. StrengthCoach.com with Mike Boyle does a good job. SB Coaches College does a good job. The NSCA, CSCCA, there's a lot of good things there. NSCA, you got all the journals, all the online journals, which if you don't get, you should get. There's several websites, and Elite Fitness is another good one. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. You just got to kind of know where they're at. What I'm going to do, instead of just sitting here rambling off 1,000 of them, I'm just going to put together a list and put that at the bottom of this, and so you'll be able to download it, open it, and just a list of websites that we think are pretty good websites. Lastly, the single best piece of single best resource for me when I was developing myself as a strength and conditioning coach was strength and conditioning manuals, and it's a free resource. Most people will give it away. You can get copies of a lot of people's different sites, or a lot of people's different manuals, and you can trade them very easily. And so what I did when I was starting off is I went online and I'd find some forums, and I would just say, hey, look, I'm willing to trade strength and conditioning manuals. And so I had my list of 10 manuals, and whenever somebody would contact me and say, hey, I'd love to trade with you, I'd ask them what they had. Whatever didn't match up, I'd make copies, send it to that person. They would send copies to me. I still do that to this day. One of the major things about our internship program that's been fantastic has been I get tons of resources back from our former interns that have gone off, and so I always ask them to send their manuals back, because what they've been able to do is take our program and expand upon it. And a lot of times they go places where they're doing some great things, and so we're able to kind of benefit from that. So you can see, I got several manuals here that I haven't gone through yet. Clemson, Iowa State, Cleveland Indians, Georgia. There's another Clemson one. So these are ones that I just got in the mail recently that I haven't gone through yet. But you can see when I first started off, this was one of the things that I really spent a lot of time with. And so, what I used to do is I would two things. One, I'd get the copies of the manuals and I'd go through them, and I kept them. And I started off by binding them because I wanted to make it look like a really nice library and have all fancy and look neat and all those types of things. What I found was I couldn't share them very easily. So what I started doing is I just went out and I bought those 3-cent folders, and I would 3-hole punch them, throw them in there, and anytime anybody wanted a copy of it, I'd copy it, give it to them, and expect something in return. And there is so much good information. Not only is there good information about strength and conditioning, but you learn how to present your program, how different strength coaches speak to their teams and try to motivate their teams and educate them on different things. I'm telling you right now that as a veteran in this field, I can go back to manuals that I got 10 years ago and I can get something out of today. And whether it be a quote, whether it be a way of presenting something, whether it be a a meal plan or a combination of exercises or something along those lines, you can find something out there. Maybe a new exercise, a new abdominal exercise, and so what I did early on is I would keep them like this, and then I would also make a copy and I would break it up, and I had binders for each topic. So say it was nutrition. What I would do is I would take the nutrition part of the manual out and I'd put that into a binder. And so when I went to write my nutrition part of my manual, I had a bunch of different things to kind of pull from, a bunch of different examples. And so it made that writing that very easily. So as a head strength coach, that was one less thing that I had to really stress about at the time. And see a lot of good examples of how to present that information. So it's great for that. The other thing, like I said, is just have it like this so that I could go back through it at any point, and you can start to see who kind of matches up with who. But what I've done now, this is what I used to do, and so my wife has basically kicked all these out of the house, and so I have them in our storage room. I have probably 10 magazine racks back there or something of these things. But what I do now is I scan them and I put them into a PDF, and then I have them on this external storage device on there. So if I pulled that up, we're going through right now. It's one of our projects for our interns, but we're going through and scanning all those manuals. But you can see, should say football. I mean, these are all manuals of sports, of teams, strength and conditioning programs, and so just huge amount of resources there. And anytime I'm looking for new ideas, I go back through this more so than going and going to a conference or even watching a video. I'll go back through these and I'll get tons of ideas. And so, very good resource and something that I highly recommend you do. Every time you talk to a strength coach, hey, can I get a copy of your manual? If they say no, hey, I'll give you a couple dollars for it. I'll give you $10, $15 for whatever it may be. But it's a huge resource, and something I think that everybody should have. But if anything, start your library. Start having that, organize it as best you can. Put as much of it electronic, but make sure it's also in a format or a way that you can start to learn. I loved physical copies. I loved physical books, physical manuals, all these types of things, because you were forced to go make notes and read it and do all those types of things. All of a sudden you get it in. I just got, one of our interns just brought me in a manual from another school today. And he brought it in and had it on a zip drive, loaded it on my computer. There's a good chance if I wasn't diligent that would go unnoticed. I'd just throw it in that folder and I'd never look at it. If it was a physical copy, I'd have to look at it. So something to just consider if you're going to put it all on digital. That's great, but make sure that you go through it. But that's my library. It's not even, like I said, this isn't even close to what it is. But it's something that I hope that, with you guys starting your libraries, it's something that we can collaborate on, and we can continue to build each other's libraries. And that's really what it's all about, is working together to share information. So hopefully you learned something from this, and we'll talk to you later.